Remember how I said in June that New York fans shouldn't be panicking? All right, maybe now they should be. But let me tell you something. A Brewers-Mariners World Series, that would be great for baseball.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever they call it these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. But the best way to get a hold of me is right below in the comment section of the YouTube page. And if you're going to send us any sort of message on any form of social media, use that hashtag EverydaySully. Now, today's episode is brought to you by good friends over at FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. So, visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. Now, before we get on to the show for the day, let's talk about the trivia question. And it's a name that's going to come up a couple of times. The name is going to come up a couple of times, the answer to the trivia question. It was, who is the all-time leader in games played and runs scored in Marlins history? And a couple of you got this one correct. Ben Trend Spelling said, "Hey, Sully, I think the answer is Luis Castillo. He had a couple of amazing years and a lot of good ones for the Marlins." Yep, that's your answer. Luis Castillo, one of the few people who was on the 1997 and 2003 World Series champ. Now, before anyone tries to check me on that, he didn't play in the World Series in 1997. He was the second baseman for most of the year, but Craig Counsell was the second baseman and scored the World Series winning run. Castillo wasn't on the World Series roster, but everyone just relax. He was on the 2003 roster. He earned himself a pair of World Series rings. And it's, as I'm recording this right now, it's looking like a team that wants to be winning a World Series will be the Milwaukee Brewers. Because let me tell you something. The Brewers they're playing in an unreal stretch. And let me tell you something. I've said before, I've said it again, it's never the wrong time of the year to go on a 9-game winning streak. But as we're approaching here basically the final quarter of the season, and the Brewers want to basically pull a Nuke LaLoosh and announce their presence with authority, well, you can't do better than this. They just swept the Mets in dramatic fashion, and they've been playing at an absolutely unreal level. Remember, I've made this point before, but they were a sub-500 team in late May. Right around the first checkpoint, they were sub-500. And since then, there have been 30 games above 500, counting today's victory. And the thing about what makes this sustainable for the Milwaukee Brewers, the thing that is making this so amazing for the Milwaukee Brewers, and you know what? Some of you might be sick of the number of times I'm talking about the Brewers, but you know what? They're the best team in baseball. If I'm going to be talking about teams all day long, it might as well be, say it with me, the best team in baseball. Not the highest payroll, not the biggest stars, the best team in baseball. Because they're doing this in a way, Pat Murphy should win the Manager of the Year unanimously. No one should even come close to him for the National League Manager of the Year. Because it's never one player for Milwaukee. Today it was Isaac Collins. Isaac Collins gets that walk-off home run for the Brew Crew, who were losing 5-0. Nobody in the planet Earth would have blinked if they lost today. They were down 5-0, and you know what? They were bound to lose a game, and they'd already won the series. When you've already won the series and you lose that final game, you think, man, I was hoping for the sweep, but at least they won the series. No one would have blinked. Down 5 bagel. Okay, maybe today's not our day. Well, you had a nice 8-game winning streak and you won the series against the Mets. Nope, not this Brewer team. Contreras hits a couple home runs. Collins hits the walk-off home run. File it under yikes, Mets fans. File it under yikes. But it's always someone different. Sometimes it's Jackson Chourio. Sometimes it's Christian Yelich. Sometimes it's Andrew Vaughn, who's been playing like a superstar since coming over from the Chicago White Sox. Do you know who leads the league in WAR with the Brewers? And I'm not the biggest fan of WAR, or at least I don't treat it as the end-all, be-all. But it's an interesting metric when you look at this team, and the player with the highest WAR is Bryce Terang. That's not a knock on Bryce Terang, but if you say, who has the highest wins above replacement for the best team in baseball, and if I went to FanDuel at the beginning of the year and said, I'm going to put money on who's going to have the highest WAR on the best team in baseball, chances are, if I put down Bryce Terang, I'd win a lot of money. The Brewers keep this up because they don't do anything dumb. They've spread the success across their pitching staff, across their lineup, as I just said, and across their pitching staff. Quinn Priester didn't have it today. He's been wonderful for them this year, but he didn't have a good game today. Well, guess what? DL Hall and Nick Mears combined for 4 2/3 no-hit innings in relief to let him off the hook. And they didn't have to use Trevor McGill. And they've got Freddie Peralta and Jose Quintana. All these pitchers are pitching well. They can actually afford to give Jacob Mizorowski some days off and not plow him through. This is what this team is doing. And they're doing it and if they also want to rest Brandon Woodruff so Mizorowski and Woodruff can have those innings in October, there you go. There you go. They're 5 games ahead in the loss column of Philadelphia and of Los Angeles right now for the top spot. And for a team like this to have a fully rested pitching staff and to know that the other team will have burnt through their ace in the wild card series, that's critical for the Brewers. Well, guess what? There's another team that's on an absolute roll right now. They're not in first place yet, but they're playing really well, and I think would make an incredible matchup in the World Series against the Brewers. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is like money left on the table. Think about that last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? No, you called the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so important, and why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system, and it helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or your computer. Now look, if you juggle 2 phone lines to help keep your business and personal calls separate, Open Phone solves that instantly. And your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more, who's handling this? And an AI agent handles after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never have to miss a customer again. Open Phone is offering Locked On MLB listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. That's openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you're having existing numbers with a number service, well, guess what? Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone. No missed calls, no missed customers. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold prediction and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before Week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. If you want to take a flyer on Mahomes being the MVP, well, that seems like a good bet. I'm going to crown the Super Bowl champion. I think it's going to be the Buffalo Bills. Do you know why? The Bills never let you down. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets today, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Now, this was a great weekend if you were a fan of the Seattle Mariners. First of all, you had an absolutely phenomenal celebration of newly minted Hall of Famer Ichiro Suzuki, who gave a great speech, as he does with his unbelievable charm and class and humor. They retired his number. It was a huge celebration of all things Seattle sports. All the big stars showed up from Mariner history. It was a sight to behold. And Ichiro, one of the really dynamic players in Mariner history, and someone who was a trailblazer, an absolute trailblazer, got his due. Got his due with his Hall of Fame speech, got his number retired. Phenomenal week. And the Mariners said, hold my Starbucks coffee. We're going to make it even better. The Mariners went on a 10-game homestand, and they won 9 of the games. 9 of them. And even with the Houston Astros taking 2 out of 3 from the New York Yankees, the Mariners have now crawled to within half a game of first place in the AL West. Not a wild card spot, of first place. Now, Matt Brash did a good job out of the bullpen today. He got another save. They finished up their second straight sweep. And this was a sweep of Tampa. Yeah, they'll sweep bad teams, but that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do if you're hanging on a wild card spot with thoughts of a championship dancing in your head. Now, I've made this point over and over again. There's no super team in the American League. And if you're in a short series and you have a pitching rotation that features Wu, Kirby, Gilbert, Luis Castillo, you know, even if you're playing in a wild card series, if you make it out of that, you're going to have a good starter going for game 1. And if you miss that wild card, if you get the bye, and let's say, the Red Sox would burn through Crochet, the Yankees, if they make it, would burn through Max Fried. The Astros would burn through like a Hunter Brown or whomever, or a Framber Valdez. That's all big stuff if you're the Seattle Mariners. And they've made some good moves, and they've had some interesting, they have interesting people in their lineup. Suarez has not been great since coming over at the trade deadline, but he drove in 2 today, and who knows, he could heat up. And Raleigh, he homered again, and he's basically clinched the MVP runner-up because, it's going to go to Judge, because Judge has shown not only does he have great stats, but his value for the Yankees has just been demonstrated. You take him out of that team and file it under yikes. But Randy Arozarena has seemed to be a perfect matchup with Julio Rodriguez, and they've been a great tandem, and it's been working. And they're now going to go on the road to Baltimore, who have been a bit of a mess, and then the Mets. And believe me, in the final segment, I'm going to talk about both New York teams. But I'll tell you something. If you're a baseball fan who wants to see good baseball, whoops, there goes my notes right in front of the camera. Oh no, I just revealed that I use notes on these. If you're a baseball fan who just wants to see good baseball and see history and see fan bases who are going to be over the moon thrilled for that event they thought they'd never see, and you want to see exciting players, and you want to see a bunch of former Hall of Famers show up and have their, be beaming as they watch an event that they thought they'd never see, then the World Series you should be rooting for is Milwaukee versus Seattle. Now, if you're a Houston fan, if you're a Cubs fan in the same division as one of them, I get it. You don't want to see that. If you're just a baseball fan, that's the matchup you should be cheering for. And let me explain why. You have 2 franchises that have never won the World Series. So you're going to see the greatest moment in that franchise's history. Seattle has never hosted a World Series. So just getting to the World Series, holy Toledo, holy Ken Griffey Jr., holy Alvin Davis, holy Ray Quinones. That'll be a big moment for Seattle. Now, the Brewers have gone to a World Series. They lost it in 7. And the main reason they lost it in 7 was that their closer, Raleigh Fingers, was injured. And their bullpen, basically coughed up a pair of games. But that being said, Milwaukee has had a World Series champion, the Braves of 1957. So it's been since 1957 for Milwaukee fans, and it's been since never for Seattle Mariner fans. So you're going to see a generational moment. You're going to see that moment, a moment of a lifetime for a fan base. You're also going to see two teams that play baseball in a fun, great way. They hit the ball. They put it into play. They go first to third. They have good pitching. They got timely hitting. They have all the things that all the people who lament the parade of relievers and the oversaturation of, sabermetrics and everything like that would love this matchup. And by the way, the Brewers and the Mariners use analytics as well. Do you know what team uses analytics? They all do. But it'll be a fun series of old-fashioned baseball. And you have no idea who the hero would be. And it would be a matchup where it's always the same teams. By the way, anyone who says it's always the same team, I want to grab a lasagna and throw it in their face. If you went back to the past 20 seasons, there have been 19 different pennant winners over the last 20 seasons. By definition, it's not the same team every year. And by the way, as I said before, people complain no matter what the matchup is. If the matchup is Dodgers-Yankees, it's big market teams. Oh, it's not fair. If the matchup is Diamondbacks versus the Rangers, it's, who cares about those? Where are the big franchises? So you can't win. But if you have a matchup, which is similar to what happened when Cleveland played the Cubs, and you knew it was going to be a generational moment for one fan base, or when the Rangers played the Giants, when San Francisco had never won a World Series title. The New York Giants had, but the San Francisco Giants had, and the Rangers had never won a postseason series before 2010. When you have a generational moment of two franchises going, something's got to give, and you have that's amazing, and the stars who would be there. Think of the Hall of Famers who were former Milwaukee Brewers. I aforementioned Raleigh Fingers, but you also have Paul Molitor. You have Robin Yount. You have the CC Sabathia made a cameo with the Brewers. Don Sutton made a cameo with the Brewers. Ted Simmons is a Hall of Famer from the Milwaukee Brewers. And think of the huge stars, the household names who have played for the Seattle Mariners. Ken Griffey Jr., Alex Rodriguez, Randy Johnson, Ichiro Suzuki. And that doesn't even bring up the likes of Felix Hernandez, of Hall of Famer Edgar Martinez, and of the apple of George Costanza's eyes, Jay Buhner. Think about what a great matchup that would be. And two insanely likable teams for fan bases that are so hungry for this. If your team's not in it, if you're a Yankee fan, I get it. You want the Yankees to win. If you're a Met fan, a Philly fan, Red Sox fan, whatever, I get it. You want your team to win. I'm not that stupid. But if your team's out of it, or will be out of it, that's the matchup you should be pulling for. It would be fun. It would be exciting. It would be good baseball. And it would be good for baseball. And would end any argument of it's the same teams every year. Really? We have Milwaukee, Seattle. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Day Hue. And look at it. We got my Game Day Hue hat right here. It's for fans like me. This one hits the mark. Makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. I'm a native New Englander. You got the Red Sox colors right here. It's about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the course, and anywhere in between. And if you want to go to a place where you don't have a big, huge logo, but you still want to make sure everyone knows where your team is, that's what Game Day Hue comes in. And by the way, it's not just hats. They got the split shade golf clubs made for the golf course. The perfect gift for the fan who has everything. And when I hit the links with my cousin Josh and with Eleanor, I got to have these going with me too. Right now, you get 15% off with code MLB15 at GameDayHue.com. That's GameDayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now's the time to load up. Let your colors talk because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com, code MLB15. A few months ago, I did that episode where I said that I didn't think that New York fans should panic. The Mets were in a little bit of a funk, and the Yankees were as well. And I said that, look, this is part of the ebbs and the flow of a 162-game season. You're going to have great moments, you're going to have bad moments. And both teams rebounded a little bit. And I did an episode a few weeks after that saying, see, you didn't have to panic. It's time to panic. Both teams. Time to panic. Like the Mets, they just got swept. They're on a 7-game losing streak. It's never the right time to lose 7 games in a row. But when you're starting to run out of games, you got to right that ship. Because I got news for you. The Mets better stop thinking about chasing Philadelphia. Okay? They're 5.5 games behind the Phillies. They're only a game and a half in front of Cincinnati. It's either a game and a half or 2 games. I'm sorry, I'm not 100%. I don't have the standings in front of me. But it's at most 2, and it's and probably a game and a half ahead of the Cincinnati Reds. A team that, by the way, I picked to make the postseason this year. And the surefire way, and Terry Francona, the manager of the Reds, can attest for this, the surefire way to not see a slide end is to have massive holes in your pitching staff. That's what happened to the Red Sox when they won their massive collapse in 2011. The famous fried chicken and beer and video game brigade. But, you got the Sangas and the Sean Manayas and all the injuries and the uncertainties of the Mets pitching. And the fact that Juan Soto, look, I'm a Juan Soto fan. I'm not a Juan Soto hater. But it is amazing that all of his home runs happen with the bases empty. And Pete Alonso seems to hit a bunch of home runs, but you're seeing slumps happen at the worst time. But you're also seeing a pitching staff that is A, unreliable, and B, the bullpen is gassed. The Mets desperately need to get a big starting pitcher, no matter what it costs at this point, because they've gone all in. And like, well, we want players who are controllable. You're here to win a championship. That's what the Mets' goal is, right? When they brought in Soto, was it for, we're hoping that we're going to have an okay time in the wild card. They're lucky if they're going to get, they probably will hold on. But you know what? I said the 2011 Red Sox were probably going to hold on too. When you have issues with a pitching staff and you're starting to spiral, the domino effect, and I saw that domino effect with the Red Sox in 2011. The starting pitchers get rocked. They have to go to the bullpen early. They have to go to the bullpen early. The hitters start to press. The hitters start to press. They make dumb swings. And the bullpen's exhausted. Lather, rinse, repeat. And all of a sudden, you lose 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4. Or you go on what is it now? It's a 7-game losing streak. Look, I checked my notes. Fact of the matter is, the Mets have to have their pitching show up. And if their pitching is already, let's be kind, unreliable right now, then how do they expect to turn things around? And that brings us to the Yankees, who, by the way, they owe a fruit basket. They should send a fruit basket to the Chicago White Sox for pulling out that victory today, because if the White Sox lost that game to Cleveland, the Yankees would be out of a playoff spot. And they're going to be playing the Twins. Twins are a weird team. They traded away everything but the statue of Kirby Puckett outside. They had a walk-off win today. I don't know what the hell the Twins are, but the Yankees and their fans saying, well, they have the easiest part of the schedule. They're only going to be playing bad teams, so we're going to just beat them up. Really? That's your strategy? That's really your strategy? We're just going to beat up and win against all the bad teams. What part of this team makes you think they could do that? Max Fried's blisters are causing him to be a mediocre pitcher now. Or worse. His ERA is in like the 6 since he got those blisters. He should be on the IL. And the fact that you're playing Giancarlo Stanton in the field right now should make you feel, I don't know, a little bit worried, because he's slightly more fragile than Samuel L. Jackson was in Unbreakable. And if he's going to continue playing outside, he'll be in the outfield. He's going to be in a full body cast before you know it, but he is their most reliable hitter right now. They play stupid defense. And the day after a game where they had a dramatic victory with a Trent Grisham home run and Max Fried on the mound today against Jason Alexander, not that Jason Alexander, the Yankees didn't show up. They didn't show up. They were no hit into the sixth, and then just sloppy play, balls dunking in, 1-2-3 innings, and the final inning, losing whatever the final score was, 7-1, 6-1, whatever it was, the Yankees called third strike, swing. They didn't even show up. They didn't show up. They had a chance to win a series against the Astros. Flip the script. They didn't show up today. It's one thing when they lose because Devin Williams came in and blew a game. They didn't show up today. You can tip your hat to Jason Alexander, but please. By the way, talking about people with the same name, we had Luis Castillo was the answer to the trivia question. Luis Castillo is also the name of a pitcher for the Mariners. And earlier this year, there was another pitcher named Luis Castillo who pitched for the Mariners. That's really weird. But you know what? The Yankees, there is a much larger than zero chance that they will be out of a playoff spot this week. And by the way, the Yankees got really lucky with two things. That the Rangers went on a slide and that the White Sox won. Because the Rangers got beaten up by Philadelphia and a couple of come-from-behind victories by the Phillies. If the Rangers held on to those leads and the White Sox didn't beat Cleveland, you would have two teams within a game of the Yankees right now, and that could still come back and haunt them. The Yankees could still be a playoff team, but is that really where we thought we were with this Yankee team? That they might be a playoff team? Their bullpen is gassed and unreliable. Who do you rely? If you can't rely on Fried in their rotation, who are you relying on? Are you really going into a world where Carlos Rodon is going to be your number one starter? It's time to panic. Really panic. And of course, if this team, if their lone strategy is say, we're going to beat up on teams like the White Sox, well, what good is that going to do you when you get into the postseason? So, we'll see. We will see. I'll tell you, though, New York, you should be panicking right now because the Mets have the formula for a massive collapse, and the Yankees are in the middle of one. Actually, they're both in the middle of one. But the World Series that the casual fans should be pulling for, I'm telling you, is Milwaukee versus Seattle. You may not think that. It may sound like I'm making a joke. What am I, pulling out some of the more obscure teams from Jeffrey Leonard's career? What am I doing here? No. If that's the matchup, one of those fan bases will see the moment they thought they would never see in their life. And you'd see good, solid baseball and exciting. And if you're not a fan of either team, then you can say, you know what? I just want to see a good game. Chances are you will. Hey, thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. And find MLB Game Night right here on the Locked On MLB feed on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's go for the trivia question. It's a Milwaukee Brewers question. When the Milwaukee Brewers won their first ever postseason game, two future Hall of Famers hit a home run in that game, and one future Hall of Famer got the win. There were a bunch of Hall of Famers on that 1981 Brewers team. Which two future Hall of Famers hit home runs, and which one got credit with the victory? Put the answer right down there at the YouTube, and there you go. So talking about the Mariners and the Brewers, why things look good there. Brewing coffee, brewing beer. And in New York,